Hello, YouTube. Why is it so dark? It's a bit better. That was my computer. Anyway, the reason you only see that side of my face is I'm always talking to TikTok. That's where my big audience is. So I'm just waiting for them to turn up. And I usually wait till I get about 100 in the room before I get going. Hello. Calla Lily. Oscar Rodriguez. Why did I say that wrong? Okay. While we're waiting, I'd love to know where you're from. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. Beautiful day today. We usually get a really good August. Last year was killer. All the trees and plants were dying everywhere. But it was very hot last year. Okay, so while we're waiting, where are you from? What part of the world are you from? I always look it up. I'm always interested. So what part of the world are you from? If you're new here, I always wait till I get about 100 in the room before I get going. It takes a minute or two. But in the meantime, I love to hear where you're from. I get people from all over the world. Finland. Oh, Finland. You've been here before? Finland. I don't remember Finland before. Maybe. Oh, I remember Greenland. Chicago, Richmond, California. Michigan. Where in Michigan? Long Island, New York. Nick, you've been here before, I think. Nick Kirsch. Someone said that they had their real name up on there and then they took it down because they had problems. Yeah, well, welcome back. Yeah, what I've learned about the internet, I've been on here now for almost 20 years, like with business. And I used to do a lot of live TV. And when you're on TV and radio, they come after you like weird, get all the weirdos. But I just never put anything really personal on here. So, you just sort of get careful with that stuff. But yeah, I haven't had any problems. London. Been there once, very short visit. Florida. Hi, Florida. I wonder if I'll ever get down there. I always think everyone I know that I've heard of from Vancouver that's been to Florida, it's because they were catching a cruise. So I think there must be a real, I guess with the waters down there would be beautiful to cruise around in. Good morning, Daniel. So where are you from? Oh, we got enough people. I'll just get going. If you go on the link above, it's bratbusters@linktree.com. No, it's not .com. Why did I say that? Oh, that was I used to say my website. Anyway, so if you go up there, it's everything I've got to offer. You can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that too. That's what makes it work. Okay, Bulgaria. Hi, Bulgaria. Have you been here before? Bulgaria. Bulgaria. I don't even know where that is. I have an idea. Is that Eastern European? Eastern Europe? I'm really dumb with this. That's why I love finding out where people are from. Oh, wow, way over there. Oh, no, anywhere near where I thought it was. Oh, dumb me. I know nothing about geography. That's why I love hearing where you're from, because I've learned so much about the world just from doing these lives. Let me see. Oh, look at the beaches around there. Wow. Oh, no, that's pretty much what I was thinking. Yeah. Near Romania, Greece. Oh, interesting. Okay, sorry. South Africa, I know where that is. Virginia, you were here yesterday. Oh, welcome back. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions now. Any tips for ADHD kids? Everything I'm talking about applies to kids with ADHD because they're the ones who taught me all this stuff. Remember, I'm self-taught. No, I'm not. I'm kid-taught. They're the ones I worked with. They're the ones that I learned all this one. Not once did anyone ever hand me a kid and say, good luck. This one's an easy one, Lisa. Not once. They always said, good luck with this one. It was always kids who were hyperactive or who were disruptive, or some were damaged, some were, had disabilities, some were, delinquent teenagers. Those are all the kids I learned all this with, is how to connect with them, make them feel good about themselves, then they will do anything for you. But I don't mean that they're your servants. I mean that they want to please you. They just do. It's just the way it goes. When you make someone like themselves when they're with you, they just naturally want to be around you and they want to please you. That's what I consider leadership to be, that. And it's not about how they feel about you. It's about how they feel about themselves when they're with you. It's all about them. Well, the leadership part's about your role, but what I mean is the focus is all on making them feel good about themselves, not good about you. They will feel good about you if they feel good about themselves, blah, blah, blah. You get where I'm going with that. Jeez. And around she goes. Okay. I've been ignoring my 2-year-old boy's tantrums and he becomes violent with himself. Do I still ignore? Yes, you do. But if he becomes violent, if they hurt themselves, hurt someone else, or start damaging property, sorry, I live downtown. I got a siren going. You restrain them. So you just hold them and just until they start to calm down, then you let them go. So long as they're getting violent, you've got to keep holding them. I had a client the other day, and she held her kid for quite some time, and he just wouldn't give up. So we said, well, we're just going to hold him for a little while, let him go, see what he does. Hold him for a little while, let him go. You know, it's always harder on you than it is on them. So yeah, he hurts himself. They do that. That's what toddlers do. So yeah, just hold him. I live in Vancouver. I'm near Olympic Village. Jeez. And obviously a hospital. Okay. Hi, what are good ways to limit screen time? There's 3 different ways you can do it. 2 of them are okay. I just don't like them. Just a sec. That's a bad one. That was 2 ambulances going by. I always wonder why 2 ambulances. It's usually an accident, which is horrible. But anyway, with screen time, there's 3 different ways of managing it. 2 I don't like, 1 I love. The 2 you have to micromanage, which is what I don't like about them. One is a set time per day. You can have screen time between 7 and 8 every single day, and that's it. Or you say you can have 1 hour a day. So you're still sort of micromanaging that, and they're not managing it. You just told them the rules, and it's okay. It's an okay way to do it. I'm not big on it though. I would rather you say you've got this many hours per week. You decide when that is. If you've used them all up, you get no more screen time for the rest of the week. You're teaching them how to be in charge of themselves. You're teaching them self-discipline. So let's say, I don't know, and I do not quote me on this. Let's say it's 10 hours a week, just so I can do the math easier. That's 10 hours a week. That's 10 times 60 minutes. That's 600 minutes. You write that on the board, 600 minutes, and you have like a little square per minute, and you just tick it off. Make it visual. The more visual stuff is, the better. Plus, it takes the onus off of you, and only you can cross that off. They're not going to be wanting to cross that off quicker. So you just keep track of all their minutes, and they can see when it's dwindling, and let them manage that. I love that one because I want kids to be self-disciplining. I don't want you to be telling them what to do. That's just a nuisance. Yeah, teach them how to manage themselves. Okay. That's what I did with my kids. I really never told my kids what to do. I didn't discipline them or anything. They were just self-disciplining. But I did that when they were little, so I didn't have to work at it. Like, getting respect is hard work. Maintaining it is easy. The quicker you get respect, the easier it is to get respect. It's about 3 to 6 weeks. I have a whole course on that if you're interested. If you have a 3 to 12-year-old, goes for 5 weeks. Okay. Screen time for toddlers, we are allowing them to decide. Yeah, I wouldn't do that with toddlers. That's for 3 and above. I would do that. And even then, there's no way I would do that with a 3-year-old. They can't do like 4 hours a day. It might be 4 hours a week or something for a 3-year-old. So yeah, it's all like age appropriate stuff too. Like, I give a lot of TikTok advice on here, but you have to consider the age and the maturity and all that stuff. A 3-year-old cannot manage 600 minutes, but maybe a 5, 6, 7-year-old, you can start doing it then. Because sometimes I'll get people say, well, that didn't work. Well, they'll do it with they'll do something for a toddler that I meant for a teenager, or something vice versa. So it's age appropriate stuff. Yeah, what if we introduce a schedule as a suggestion, though it's ultimately there's no leadership there. There's no clear boundaries. There's no who's in charge here. That would be like if you took a new job and the boss said, well, I don't have a job description for you. I'm not sure what time I want you to come into work. You decide. You know, there's certain things that we need leadership with. Children desperately need, crave, and want leadership. I know the style right now is almost getting them to parent themselves. It's just, okay, I won't go on about that. But anyway, yeah, they need leadership. So yeah, you got to be in charge of some stuff. The big stuff, I mean, the little stuff they can decide, like what socks you want to wear, something like that if they're little. But yeah, you have to sort of lay down some boundaries. Is it okay to say absolutely no phones or screen time after 10 p.m.? What are they, 2 years old or 12? I don't know the age, so I can't. And you can have a cutoff time. I often do that in coaching. If they've got teenagers who are on the phone all night or whatever, then we'll often you say we're going to charge the phones in our room, in my room at night, and there's no phones after a certain time or whatever, and that's just a rule. But you can't have it either. The thing is, if you're going to lay down these laws with teenagers, you have to do it too. I just don't think it's fair to say to a teenager, okay, so no screens after 11, then you're up till 1 in the morning watching movies. I just don't think that's fair. Um, Yeah, this one I can't really comment on. You said you think your 2.5-year-old has ADD, sensory issues, and all that. Perhaps, I don't know. I can't really comment. I'm not a doctor. I can't comment on that. But he's only 2.5. But usually, I had a doctor years and years ago, and years ago they used to say that teething. There's no such thing as a fever with teething. Every single time my son cut a tooth, he got a fever. My daughter never did, but he did. And it was every single time. So I said to my doctor, I know they're not supposed to get fever, and I hate medication, but I just felt like I had to use it in those situations because of the fever. And I said to the doctor, I said, I know what they say, you can't get fever. And I said, but my son gets one every single time. And he says, number one rule, never argue with a mother. He said, because you know your kid best. So, but yeah, he did used to. So with ADD, maybe he does have it. But what are you going to do if he does? That's always my first question is if they do have it, what are you going to do? Anything different? Probably not. You're probably just going to meet his needs and manage his wants. And, but that's the thing I don't know if there's any rush in having that addressed at this age, because what are you going to do different if he has ADD? Is there really any intervention you can do now that might make life easier for him down the road? I don't know. So you want to decide that. I would almost decide that before you get him assessed. Say, if he does have it, what am I going to do different? I don't know. It's very hard to assess at a very young age. I think they say 3 or 4 is when they can more appropriately address them, but I'm not sure. I'm sure it's different everywhere too. 2-year-old screams for everything she wants and refuses to hold hands in public. So, oh God, that's an easy one. Put her on a leash, restraint, or make sure she's always strapped into a stroller or into a shopping cart. Just restrain her, basically. If she's running and won't hold hands, if she won't hold hands, that's the rule. You don't hold my hand, you have to sit in the stroller. That's it. And make it happen. Make it happen. You won't hold hands, you go on this leash. She will learn, but pick it. Pick what you're going to do. Are you going to put her in a stroller? Are you going to put her on a restraint, a leash, a harness, whatever? So it's for safety, right? You don't want a 2-year-old who won't hold your hand out in public. Someone could grab them. They could get hit by a bus. You know what I'm saying? That's a safety issue. And so what if they're screaming? That's on them. You do the right thing. I don't care if they're screaming or tantruming. To me, that means nothing. If I'm doing the right thing and I'm keeping them alive and safe, and if I'm leading and I know I'm doing it right, I don't care how they react to it. They'll eventually catch on. Like their behavior is, you don't want them leading it. If you allow their reaction to being disciplined to lead you, they're in charge, guaranteed. Expectations change for a 2-year-old versus a 3-year-old. Very good question. My behavior board starts at the age of 3. That's when they can start to reason. You can put the behavior board up. They can't read, but you can read it out. You can read it out to them, explain it, use pictures, whatever you got to do so they understand it. Keep it simple, 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 simple. And at 3, under that, like they can start reasoning at 3, but really not much before that. Maybe 2 years and 9, 10 months, you can see more of that consistent reasoning starting to kick in. But under that, it's just consistent corrective actions. So every time they do something you don't like, consistent corrective actions. So, but it's not words with 2-year-olds. It's more words as they get older. But yeah, a toddler's language is physical. 3 and above is more verbal. But remember, they're never really listening to you as much as they're watching you. They're watching your body language, your tone of voice. That's why when I'm disciplining kids, I pretty much whisper. I say, I didn't like that. I'll tell you what we're going to do. And then I'll say, okay, you're going to help me with this now. Do you understand? and then make it happen. So it's almost like a whisper when you're and they get used to that. They tend to listen when you whisper. Consistent corrective action. Well, it depends on what they're doing. If they've got a toy in their hand and they're hitting someone, you say no and you take that toy and put it away. That's a consistent. You got to do it every single time. That's a consistent corrective action. They only learn after maybe 50 to 100 to 150 times because they learn through repetition. They never learn the first time. They might learn for the next hour, but they're going to do it again in an hour or tomorrow. So yeah, they learn through consistent corrective actions because repetition is what they're all about. I have a daycare. I use most of this advice for them and it works too. Yeah, a lot of my clients are teachers, principals, child psychologists, and they'll use it. And some of it does cross over, but parenting's different from all, like I could never do any of those jobs. I'm not qualified and they don't feel qualified to parent. That's why they hire me because that's a different thing. Parenting's personal. It's different, but a lot of stuff crosses over that you can use for both. I would say listening skills are number one. You can do that with if you're a teacher, a child psychologist, a parent, a spouse, a friend. Listening is a really good skill to have. Use your ears more than your mouth. Or when they do need to be heard, listen correctly. When someone's telling you something, you listen to understand and show empathy. But you don't listen to give advice. If people want advice, they're going to ask for it. And people rarely do. You think about that. Take that for a test drive. When someone tells you their problems and you just stop there, they say, and you say something like this, oh, that's really, that would be very frustrating. Yeah, sorry to hear about that. And then stop talking. They don't usually ask your advice. They might say something like, what do you think I should do? And then they'll keep talking. So yeah, but listening is, I would say, a crossover. It goes across the board. Listening is a really good skill. My thing, I listen. I'm more into body language. I watch because a lot of people don't say what they're thinking. I call it masking. So they'll say what they think they should say or what they want to say, what they think they should want to say, but they don't. So I'm a body language person. I watch body language. That's why video is so important when I'm doing coaching. They'll say, yeah, okay, I'm going to do that, and I'm thinking, no, you're not. I can just tell sometimes. How did you know? And I said, yeah, I was watching. I learned that through kids because kids are our best teachers. Kids have no filtering system. They have no baggage. They have no history. They're just so natural. You watch them and you can apply a lot of what you learn with kids to adults. We just get better at hiding stuff. But kids aren't. They show it all. It's all written all over them. If throwing a tantrum is looking at your phone, okay, yeah, I would stare at the wall. The reason why you don't look at your phone or talk to someone while they're having a tantrum is it's dismissive. I would just be like this. I might even be like maybe humming or something just to show that you're just looking around. You want it to look like you're waiting, like you're in a waiting room, that kind of look. That's why I file my nails and I might look down every so often, but never eye contact. I might go like this, like, oh, you're not done yet? Okay. It's like that. You want it to look like you're waiting. You're just waiting for them to calm down. That's all you are waiting. You're riding out the crazy. And as soon as they calm down, you go, you all done? Okay. You want to read a book? You do not discuss tantrums before, during, or after. Don't give it any weight at all. Okay. I'm an EA in a toddler room and I use your advice every day. Excellent. A lot of it does cross over. But a lot doesn't. That's why, like, people will say, oh, well, I know a teacher and she does this. I say, yeah, so home, institution, personal, non-personal. They're different. Plus 30 kids in one go, 3 kids. It's just a different dynamic. I couldn't be a teacher. I think I'd wet myself if I had to do that. I'm worried I'm disciplining if my 2-year-old really has ADD. Okay, here's what you do to make your life easy. I just did one video on it recently, how to cope with toddlers, I think. It was one of my favorite videos because I had some good solid advice with toddlers. 3 bits of advice. I've added 1 onto it, by the way. I'll do another video. Although I can't remember what the 4th one is. I remember yesterday I was talking about, and I thought that's a good one. I forgot about that. But anyway, the 3 steps to coping with toddlers. Number one is child-proof your house so that you never have to say no to them. Number 2 is do a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Look that up. I've done tons of videos on toy rotation systems. Number 3 is when you are playing with them, find your inner toddler. Get down on their level. Right down on the ground. Lay down if you have to. I used to lay on the floor, and my son would build railroad tracks over my body. I would be like the train tracks, and that would be the tunnel. He'd go through it. The more you enter their world, they just look at you differently. That's part of leadership and part of connection, because you want to connect with your kids. That is number 1. 4 ways to make life easier with a toddler, but I didn't write them down. What the heck is the 4th one? I had a 4th one that I came up with yesterday. I thought, why did I not think about that one too? And now I can't remember. Does anyone remember? I talked about it yesterday. Sugar. What the heck was that? I'm going to write them down now just because I'm mad at myself. I can't remember. Okay, child-proof, toy rotation, enter their world. What the heck was the other one? I don't know. Anyway, and when you do discipline, it's just consistent corrective actions, not words. It's not words. They're not about words. Why on earth would you treat them like that? Use your words, and let's talk about your feelings. That's for you. It's very about you. It's not about your toddler at all. Stop trying to figure them out. Yes, thank you. Stop trying to figure them out. They haven't formed yet. Thank you. That's it. Stop trying to figure them out. Absolutely. It's all this waste. You're wasting your time. Why do they do this? Whenever I'm hired by someone who has a toddler, why would they do that? I'm like, I don't know. They don't know. Why would they smear poop on the wall? Who knows? Like, don't try and figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're just brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. They're just not formed yet. So I would say the biggest flaw that I see when parents who are struggling with toddlers is trying to make sense out of them. Don't do that. Toddlers do not think rationally. They don't have it yet. They don't have rational thinking yet. They haven't developed that. They may have moments where they look at you and look going like that. They're going to go back and do it again anyway. Like, they will look at you and agree with you. Yes, mommy, I do feel that way. Yes, mommy, I won't do it again. No, I've learned. And then they go right back and do it. And you're like, what on earth? I should tell the sandbox story. Oh, such a good one. Big mom fail here, right here. Anyway, this is very funny, actually. It's a long story, but I'll tell it anyway. I'll try and shorten it. So my son was 2 years old, and he was out in the sandbox, and I was inside watching him. He couldn't see me because, bright outside and it's dark. I was in the kitchen watching him through the window. He couldn't see me. So he's out in the sandbox, and I see him throwing rocks over. I could hear it clink, hitting this fence, throwing rocks into the neighbor's yard. I go running out there, and I say, you don't do that. Now, I had lots of experience with kids. I couldn't believe I did this. I said to him, you don't do that. I took him down to the neighbors. We picked up all the rocks. I said sorry to the neighbors. Now, they had older kids. They were experienced. They were sitting out in their patio laughing at me. And I had him say sorry to them. And they're like, yeah, okay. Like, what are you doing? Like, anyway, like, it was duh. So anyway, and he won't do it again. You won't do it again, will you? And they're looking at me like, they're just laughing at me because they're experienced parents, right? And I'm this new mom. But I had tons of experience. Why was I acting like this? Anyway. So I took him back up and I did the therapy session. Now, sweetie, you don't throw rocks over the fence because we'll have to go down. No, mommy, no. I go back in the house and I'm like, mother of the year. He won't be doing that again. I was so proud of myself. And I'm doing dishes. Clank. Another rock. He's throwing them again. I went storming up. I almost saw red. As I'm walking towards him, I stop myself and I go, what am I doing? I was doing everything wrong. It dawned on me. So we had to go back down. This time I carried him back down, picked up the rocks. I could hear them laughing as soon as the rocks started going over the fence. So I picked up the rocks and I said, sorry again. I'm all embarrassed. They were laughing their guts out at me. Anyway, so we come back up. Now, what I said to him is I said, okay, what we're going to do now, and I put him in a different spot in the sandbox. I set him up with some toys. I played with him for a little bit. I didn't even talk about the rocks. They were over there now. I went back inside and I said to him, mommy's watching. Are you having fun? Good boy. Because all he was thinking was throwing rocks over the fence is fun. And I can't see mommy, so she can't see me. That's as far as he thought. He didn't care if he had to go down to the neighbors and pick up rocks. They could care less if they say the words, I'm sorry. They could care less about the lecture. But yeah, so I did it too, right? Like, how embarrassing, those neighbors. Anyway, so, but yeah, that's all he was thinking. Throwing rocks over the fence is fun. So every time he'd look at those rocks, I'd say, Mommy's watching you. You're having so much fun. And he'd go, oh, okay. Because he knew if he did it again, but I kept reminding him. But I redirected him, showed him something else to do. And then I reminded him over and over and over again that I had eyes on him. I was watching him. So yeah, so we all mess up. I should tell that I'm going to do a video on that. That was a good one. Why didn't I do a video on that sandbox story? Oh, I'm sure I did. I've been on here for a year and a half now. I'm sure I did a sandbox story. I wouldn't have called it that though, but I will this time. Anyway, that was a good one. Did you ever co-sleep with your kids? I co-slept with my daughter. She was the younger one for, I think, 8 months. And that was enough. I was always afraid I was going to smother her. So, but yeah, I co-slept with her. I wouldn't recommend it in that there's always that chance you can roll over on them. But I was terrified of, what do they call that? When the baby dies and while they're sleeping, what's that called? Oh, what's that called? Anyway, you'll tell me in a second. But yeah, I guess I had a fear of that because it was just talked about so much at the time. So that's why, and she was a real cuddler. But yeah, 8 months of that. And then finally I just put her in her bed and that was it. But I didn't enjoy it because I didn't sleep that well. Plus, when you wake up with a baby, you always wake up with a foot in your mouth. Or, they're like, they're laying their bums on your head and a wet diaper all over you. So yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. But I like keeping her safe, that's all. What's that called? SIDS, yeah. Oh God, it was just talked about so much. But now they have, I'm not trying to scare you, but like that you need to get this at all. But those little things that they put on their ankles and gets their heartbeat. I would probably get one of those now. Just because I just had such a fear of it. I don't know why. I just, new moms, I wasn't a new mom, but I mean, with a new baby, it was just talked about so much in the news. And, but anyway, it scared the bejeebs out of me. Yeah, my daughter co-slept with me for 8 months until she rolled out of my bed into the middle of the night. That's when I took my kids out of the cribs. Is as soon as they did the flop onto the floor, that was it. I dismantled the crib and just put the mattress on the floor. How do I stop my 2-year-old from hitting me or others when mad or bothered? He gets very angry very easily. Okay, now I have 2 little mini courses. You might want to get them both actually. The toddler tantrum one and the toddlers who hit and bite, and that they're different. During a tantrum, so it's just different. But if they hit and bite outside of a tantrum just because they used to get in their own way, that's an anger kind of, it's just different. Tantrums are not a behavior. They're a loss of control. But they're very much in control when they hit someone to get their own way. So there's little mini courses. They're up in that link, Bratbusters link tree. It's just a link. It just has in bullet point form everything I've got to offer. I deleted all of my blogs. I had 17 years of blogs. And about 2 years ago, I deleted them all. Some of them are still up there, evidently, because I've been posted on like other sites and newspapers and that, whatever, websites. So some of them are still out there, but I was laughing. I went back. I thought, how far back do these things go? And I went back and it was something, I wrote something like this. Now with this newfangled Facebook, I got to get rid of this thing. It's so outdated. Anyway, yeah. Just prove, well, I don't mind being old, but I just thought, yeah, I don't really think that's relevant. Okay. And my son does not hit and bite, but gets super angry a lot. Is that the same question? So he's got, well, yeah. So like that's on them. Their emotions, when you're a leader, they tend to calm down. By the age of 3, you'll see it. They start to be able to control themselves better when they're 3. If they've got a calm leader, it calms their emotions down too. That's that. They learn to self-regulate by watching you. You model calm behavior. You can be crazy when you're having fun, but when you're angry or when you're dealing with something serious, it's all calm, right? So anyway, they're watching you. They will learn. But when they're little, so they just go nuts sometimes. It's like, yeah, my mother would have looked at me and gone, what are you all about? Like she wouldn't have given that any attention. He's 4. Oh, he's 4. But does his anger, like, how does it interrupt the life, like your life? What I mean is, what's he doing that's so bad? That, like, so what if he gets angry? What is he doing? Is he breaking things? What action is he doing? Because you can't put "don't be angry" on the behavior board. The behavior board's free. You might want to check that out and see if that might help you. But you pick actions. You don't never put emotions or personality-based stuffs or attitude. You never address attitude. I think I just did a video on that yesterday. I thought, gee, that's going to get some flack because people like to talk about attitude. I don't. A bad attitude in a kid is just that you're not a leader. That's just a tell. So I don't address bad attitudes with kids ever. It just means you're not a leader. So you work on your leadership skills and their attitude will improve greatly. I'm just looking it up. These guys, where are they from? It's looks like Saudi Arabia or somewhere. They have all these competitions where they blindfold themselves and start swinging and hitting each other. There's a lot of them in that country doing that. It's freaking hilarious. I love stuff like that. I love silly stuff. That's why I love being around kids. It's just all silly. Oh, here we go. Ignoring tantrums. Yeah, that always gets big views. But, oh, here we go. Yeah, these ones never get big views. How to deal with bad attitude. In other words, you don't. I just did a video about that yesterday. Okay. How do I stop a 1-year-old at daycare to stop biting? You don't. You can't teach a 1-year-old not to bite. They'll eventually learn. It's just physically, they just have to be removed from whoever they're biting. You just say no and just move them away and just don't allow them to continue doing it. That's up to that's one of the hardest things for daycare people because they cannot be sending other kids home all bitten. So that's why it's very difficult for them. But yeah, they have to just try and it's just difficult. It's not an easy one. There's no quick fix for that. Can't help you with that one. How do I stop a 2-year-old from screaming randomly? You don't. As soon as they do, I would look away. I would do a show of, I'm going to ignore that. Biting is super common, yeah, with toddlers. Well, what else have they got to do? They haven't got words. They have no power yet. They've got biting, hitting, kicking, punching, screaming. That is their world. That's how they communicate. It's just the way it is. And they'll do almost anything. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them, they either will or they won't. It's like tantrums. Some of them do, some of them don't. It's just they're kind of born to do these things. I call it climbing, violence, biting, kicking, all that, tantrums. And there's a fourth one too. Why do I keep forgetting the fourth thing? Anyways, there's climbing, tantrums. What's another one? Oh, running. So they're just running away from you all the time. Those are 4 things that they either do or they don't, and they're born to do them. They're either going to do them or they're not. The only thing my kids did, my son had tantrums, but neither one of them were aggressive or they didn't run or climb, but my son had tantrums. So you're going to usually get some of those. But I've worked with kids who did all 4 of them. So how do I correct bossiness? Well, I don't know the age. Oh, that was the 4-year-old? Bossiness. With other kids, if you're there, you can't do much about it if you're not there. If you're there, I don't know how it's happening. Like, is it leadership? Like, I've known a few people in my life who were born leaders. They were very good at organizing people and saying, you go there, but it was for the better of everybody. They were the ones in the neighborhood who got all the teams going. Okay, let's split into teams. You go there. So that they were bossy, but they were good leaders. So we all were happy to follow them. They were always exciting. They had stuff going on. Is it that? Or is it just, no, give me that because I want it? And I don't know which one. So bossiness is too big of a term. It's like, what do I do if they're happy? Or, it's too big of a term for me. I need specifics. Mainly with toys. Well, then I would make sure the other kid, oh, you took that toy away? The other kid gets to play with it for the next hour. I would watch that. That's a learned behavior. That's something they've learned to get away with. You got to interrupt that pattern. And this is a big mistake parents make, is they go all in with everything. So I would, because I'm level 10 with what I teach, I would address everything that I didn't like about what kids were doing in one day. Instantly, I would deal with it all. But you pick one thing at a time. If you want to address bossiness, don't address the fact that they don't make their bed, or the fact that they don't eat properly, the dinner time battle, the mealtime battle, bedtime battle. Just address one thing at a time. That's why in my course I have it all set out so that it's all paced out. You got to pace yourself. Pick one battle per week. The behavior board's designed for that, for just that. One rule and one consequence per week for 3 weeks. Then you go off the behavior. In the course, you go to the next level. But the behavior board just teaches you the behavior board. So yeah, I would say, I wouldn't use the word bossy. I would come up with something else. I don't know what right now, but anyway. because bossy's sort of quit being nasty. It's sort of it's like saying quit bullying, but I do say no hitting. I don't like the word bossy for some reason. I don't know. Okay. You got a 3-year-old pinching, taking 9 months old toys. You got to keep your eyes on those kids. You got to supervise so the little one doesn't get hurt. But I would put down no hurting your sister. Yeah, no hurting your sister. And if you do, there's a consequence. Use my behavior board. That's free up in the link above. And it'll teach you how to do that, how to manage that, because there's going to be a consequence. How do I work on my leadership skills? What are things I could work to start on? Well, number one, if you want to be a leader, is you got to pick your battles. Like if you want to start leading your children, it could be I like stuff that is routines. So let's say you're just not a leader at all, but you're going to master bedtime. You're going to get a bedtime routine in place. So you can use my behavior board and you put down follow bedtime routine. Then on a separate sheet, you have a whole bedtime routine. It might just be pictures. So you master that. Then the next week you might say, oh, that went quite well. I think we'll work on morning routines, school morning routines, or mealtime routines. So routines are good things to get started on. But yeah, I do have a full course on how to do all this, and it's all laid out for you very specifically. If you're interested in that, it's just laid out there. I should look at that right now. See what do I say in that first week? Some samples. Depends on the age, though. That's for 3 to 12-year-olds. Everything's so slow because I'm also filming on YouTube, so it takes up my computer bandwidth. I'm just curious what I said. I forgot. I wrote this course a few months ago now. I'm just curious what I said in the first week. Where is it? Oh. Oops. Sorry, I got the wrong one. Hit the wrong one. Oh, here it is. Okay. Sugar. Sorry. I'm just curious. Where do you start? That's such a big question. If you told me the age and what your problems were, I would know exactly where to start. But I don't have an age. I don't have what's your focus? What kid is your focus? What kind of parent are you? You have to assess a few things first. So yeah, I won't even bother looking at it. It's taking too long. Do you think TV is okay for toddlers? I think it's okay for anyone. Anything's okay, like in moderation, aside from, smoking, drinking for toddler. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think it's okay. My kids watch pretty much every day in Australia. There was a show called Play School, and it was way better than Sesame Street. Like Sesame Street became all about that Kermit or something. I don't know, but it just became a baby show. It wasn't educational anymore. It was just pig and a frog singing to each other. So it just lost its learning. But anyway, Play School was fantastic. It was on every day. It was a government show, and it was on every single morning. And my kids watched that religiously, and they learned so much. But it was fun too. Like it was just singing, but it was educational and fun. So they watched that every single morning, and that was my time. I'd be getting all their clothes ready, whatever. So yeah, it was part of the routine. You've talked about Miss Rachel before. Ms. Rachel. I don't know who that is. That's the kind of stuff. If you want to know what toys are great, what shows are great, look on the mom blogs. Like I'm a parenting coach, but I don't know what's trendy out there because I'm dealing with relationships all the time. But parents will tell me what's going on out there, and because I'm not looking at. I got grandkids coming. I'll know all about that soon. But yeah, I don't know what's trending out there right now. My kids were born and raised in Australia. And the Wiggles, remember the Wiggles? There's like 4 or 5 different men that were all dressed in different colors, and the Wiggles. And I took my son to a Wiggles concert, right? Once. My mom was visiting from Canada. Anyway, we went to this Wiggles concert, and I swear, I think I'd rather have a tooth pulled out through my nostril. It was agony. It was just a whole hour and a half of nothing but this and saying, oh, geez, my hair just curled thinking about it. Oh, it was agony. I did it. I did all that stuff. You do it. You got kids, you do it. But yeah, I wasn't into that stuff at all. It's funny. Oh, okay. Amazing teacher online. Yeah, and I'm not into accelerated learning at all, but I like their minds to be opened up. And there was another show that I loved, and it was called Art Attack. If you look it up on YouTube, it's called Art Attack. It was the old one. And it was this guy who would just take common household items and turn them into works of art. We used tons of that stuff. So really creative. I always had stuff going on in the house. So we did a lot of those art attack projects. So that's the kind of shows I like my kids to see. Was it got their mind working, and it was all, it wasn't just mindless. It was actually they'd come to me afterwards. Did you see that? Can we do this? And I go, yeah, sure. Okay. That's what I like them to see. So I was very selective in what they watched. And then there were times when I was just cooking dinner, like I'll put anything on. Sometimes you just got to get them watching something. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is a very good story. Thanks very much, Caitlin. Can you tell your swimming pool story for the new ones here? I love it. It's so good. The pool story encapsulates everything that I believe in how you treat children. And it's about leadership and also about making them feel good. And I'll explain why. Okay. It's a true story. My son was 8 years old. We had a pool in the backyard, so we had a birthday party. My husband took our daughter away somewhere else. It was just me and 6 8-year-old boys in the pool. All I'm doing is I'm a safety freak. So even the moms would come in and they'd say, and the moms who didn't know me, they'd say, "Oh, can we stay?" Because they were a bit nervous, right? A pool party, one person. And I said, "Yeah, but don't talk to me," because all I'm doing is counting heads. They all left. So anyway, me alone with 6 8-year-old boys. So I had taken Whaley out of the pool because Whaley is a big blow-up toy, and we didn't have a pump, so I had to blow it up by just my hand, whatever. So I just put him off to the side because I couldn't see behind him. 3 kids could die behind Whaley. So I said, "Okay, boys, have fun in the pool, but Whaley has to stay over there because I can't see." I even explained that I can't see behind him, so do not take Whaley in the pool. Sure enough, one of these kids, and I knew him. I worked with all these kids at school, so I knew him. He brings Whaley in the pool, and I said to him, "Whaley, out of the pool now." He said to me, "No," and my son instantly went like this because he knows he was looking forward to the show. Mom knows how to take care of business. Fully clothed, I'm in the pool. Had him out sitting beside me like that. He didn't even know what happened. And I said, "You're going to sit there for 10 minutes now." And then my son got Whaley out of the pool, and I'm still counting 5 heads. Now, for those 10 minutes, I'm talking to this kid about soccer, about how well he did in a test that I had worked up with him on. And then what PlayStation games he liked to play with. Well, he's chatting away. And I said, "Okay, 10 minutes is up. You can go back in the pool." He didn't stop talking. I couldn't get rid of him. He's hanging out with me, like we're like best buds now, right? Couldn't get rid of him. Finally, I looked at my son and I said, "Aren't you going to play basketball soon?" Because we had basketball hoops in the pool. And so he said, "Yeah, we're going to play." And I said, "Okay, you don't want to miss basketball. Have fun." He goes back in the pool. I couldn't get rid of this kid. The rest of the afternoon, he's all over me. "Can I help you with anything, Lisa?" I'm like, geez, I think I overshot with all that connecting stuff. Anyway, so here's all the lessons in that. I laid down the law initially. I was very clear about it. And I did not say, "Please do not take Whaley in the pool." I said, "Whaley stays over there." I'm very clear when I give direct. It's about safety, right? I'm not begging them to be good. I'm just saying there's the rule. It's like speeding. They don't say, "Please don't speed." It's "Don't speed." So then when he took Whaley in the pool, I said, "Whaley out of the pool now." I would not say "please" because he's just broken a safety rule. Anyway, when he said no to me, I took action like that. I would never say it twice. I would never say, "I said Whaley out of the pool," like a loser, begging him. I took action instantly. I was in the pool fully clothed, had him out under my arm, dragged him up on the thing. And then I was very clear. I said, "You sit there for 10 minutes. Why did I not say, "Because you took Whaley in the pool"? He already knows. Why would I rub salt in the wound? He already knows. Why do I berate him? It's just mean. So, and then why did I not talk about any of that? All I'm doing is building him up. And I saw you at the softball game the other day, or soccer, whatever, and you did this. I'm building him up. I'm building trust. I'm building rapport. I'm building, like, all of a sudden he's starting to respect me because he's being disciplined. He's sitting there for 10 minutes, right? And then when the 10 minutes is up, I didn't say, "Back in the pool and don't bring Whaley in." Salt in the wound, because you're normally rotten, so don't do that again. No, I said, "Go back in the pool and have fun." It's all positive because the discipline only happened once. I dragged him out of the pool, said 10 minutes. That was it. All done. That's it. Anyway, couldn't get rid of this kid. Funny thing is, he was great for me all afternoon. His mom comes to pick him up and he's rotten with her. And then and what's funny is he had ADHD and she always had him medicated at school and at home, always. Anyway, so she didn't give him any medication when she sent him to my pool party. She gave him a pill before she even took him home. There's no way she'd deal with him unmedicated. I thought that was really funny. I'm not pro or anti-medication. It just struck me as funny that she threw him my way with no medication, but she wouldn't even take him home without it. Anyway, so yeah, there's the pool story. Now, the lesson is that when I say something, I mean it. I'm the leader. Also, the lesson is you're really a good kid. I don't need to hone that. I don't need to hone into what you did wrong. And I like you. He liked himself when he was with me. Everyone else was so busy telling him what he was doing wrong all the time, which he did stuff all the time. But I'm telling him, I'm building him up. I'm making him feel good about himself. Now, when I'm the person who does that for him, he's all over me. They can't do enough for you when you do that, especially when they don't get that from other people. Because he was just being corrected and disciplined all the time because he was a problem. And he just was. So, but I built him up so much that he would have been embarrassed to be naughty with me, because all of a sudden he feels great about himself when he's with me. And I got rules. When I say something, I mean it, and he knows it. You see, that encapsulates how everything I teach is based on that. It could be encapsulated in that story. By the way, teenagers are different. You don't act that way with teenagers or toddlers. That's 3 to 12-year-olds. 3 to 9-year-olds I'd probably do that with, because they couldn't pick up a 10-year-old. But anyway, so yeah, it's a really good story because I'm a tough disciplinarian and that I take action. But then it's all about the connection, building it up, the trust. He felt great about himself when he was with me. Think about that. If someone makes you feel great about yourself, don't you want to prove that you are great? Don't you want to keep that going? It would be embarrassing to act out in front of someone you looked up to, like a mentor or a boss you really liked or a sports coach you really liked. That's that relationship I work hard to get. I'm like that coach that the kids want to please and want to be around, and they'd be embarrassed to break the rules because then they'd be sitting on the bench. They'd be embarrassed. You see, that's what you're after. Does that make sense? That encapsulates leadership to me, is making them feel good about themselves, but you still know how to lay down the law. You still have rules and boundaries, and you know how to enforce them. The Wiggles, yeah, God, what a nightmare. I'll tell you another funny story about that. At the time, the Harry Potter movie came out, the very first one. My son was, I think, 8. And there was 2 parents, 2 kids, an 8-year-old boy, 3-year-old girl. The 8-year-old boy wanted to see Harry Potter. So then the 3-year-old girl wanted to see the Wiggles movie. There was a movie, the Wiggles movie. I'd already learned my lesson, you'd think, with the Wiggles concert with my son when he was about 1 or 2. But no, 6 years later, the Wiggles movie. Now I had a choice. My husband at the time said, which one do you want to do? And my daughter was very much a Mummy's girl. She wanted Mummy in the Wiggles movie. She's just a Mummy's girl, right? So I said, okay. And she says, Mommy, can you go with me? And I said, okay. Oh my God, the Wiggles movie. Oh, it was agony. And then my husband at the time got to go and see Harry Potter. And they came out, he said, oh, it was great. I loved it. And I came out with a headache, nauseous. You'd think you'd learn, right? Art Attack was amazing. Yeah, Art Attack. And it's the original one. There's newer ones out, but I can't remember the guy's name. But anyway, he was the best. Ignoring tantrums of what to do when you're in a public space that requires quiet. You take them out into a parking lot. You remove them from the situation. So if you're in a restaurant or something, you take them out in the parking lot, wait it out there. Just stand around looking like that, waiting for it out there. Like I would let them, wherever my kids fell, or my daughter never had a tantrum, but wherever my son fell with a tantrum, that's where I dealt with it, unless I had to remove him to save the other people around. And then I would take him out to the car. So then I'd drop him there and let him finish it off there. He knew he didn't do it very often with me. He knew he was more likely to have a tantrum with his dad as time went on, because he knew Dad would be more likely to, what do you want? Feed it. He was feeding it. But then he learned too. You just ignore it and it stops. God, I just got the shivers at Wiggles movie. Not that it wasn't a great movie, but I was in my 30s and it was a Wiggles movie. My daughter loved it. Well, I can't comment on that, Grandma. I don't know what's going on there. How old was your son in this story? In the pool story, they were 8 years old. The Wiggles movie, he was 8 years old. Sandbox Story, he was 2. The Swing Story, he was 2. The Mall Tantrum Story, he was 3. I tell a lot of stories in coaching, more personal ones. I don't blast them out here, but I'm very careful. I guard their privacy now because they're like 33 and 28. And I just finished my daughter's wedding dress. I made that. She's married next week. And I've got a grandchild coming this year. It's a big year for the mom, the grandma, the mom, a wedding and a baby. So how do you punish 2-year-old twins? They think they're the boss. No, they don't. They just don't think you are. So yeah, just I've got 4 pieces of advice. I'm going to look it up. Someone help me with this. Oh, sugar. Did I even write it down? I must have. Oh, there it is. I did write it down. Okay, toddlers. Here's the 4 best pieces of advice I can give you for general advice with toddlers. Child-proof your whole house so you never have to say no. Have a toy rotation system going so that they don't get bored. You rotate it about once a week. Some parents even do it once a day. They say they got such active kids, so they'll do it once a day. But anyway, I did mine about once every few months, my kids, because we always had activity. Big stuff was always out, like Lego, and I'd pull it. I used to make a lot of stuff, so we had projects going a lot. Toy rotation. Then enter their world when you're playing with them. You get down the floor and play with them in their world. And then the 4th one is stop trying to figure them out. They don't make any sense. Don't try and reason with them. Don't try talking to them. Just take action. So child-proof your home. Have a toy rotation system going. Enter their world when you play with them and stop trying to figure them out. Thanks for that 4th one. There was a 5th one too. I know there was another one. Oh, yeah. Stop talking and take action. That is consistent. You can talk to them all you want, but not when you're disciplining. Corrective actions. As they learn through repetition. They will never learn the first time. They might learn the 100th time. Have you ever dealt with developmentally delayed preemies? Tons of them. I used to volunteer in hospitals. In here, it's still going, evidently. This was back 40 years ago. I used to volunteer twice. I was like 24 years old, around there. I did it for 2 years, 2 days a week, or all days, like for Sunday afternoon, then I think Tuesday night. I'd go in there and just support the workers in helping 4 years and under. And they were, some of them were NAS babies, narcotic addiction syndrome babies. A lot of them were development delayed. And these were children who would never get out of care. They were, as bad as it gets. A lot of them were, all geared up with all sorts of machines all over them and that. And, but yeah, I did that for years. Connecting is connecting. And I remember saying to one of the nurses there, I said, look, there's these 2 kids that I worked with every single time I was there. They were about 3 and 4. And they were, I didn't know, they can't look at you or anything. They're just sort of staring. They were on heavily medicated for seizures. So they, anyway, they were, had a lot of disabilities. They used to say, I know these are the worst of the worst. A lot of people don't last here because it's so difficult to be around them. I became obsessed with connecting with them. And I remember saying to one of the nurses, how do I connect with these kids? Like you can't talk to them, or, like they just don't seem to understand anything or even know you're there. And they said, how you'll know if they like you or if they trust you is when you pick them up, because they all had shunts in their necks for drainage. And they said, when you pick them up, they'll flop. That's when you know they trust you, because they don't even flop for everyone they know. They just, if they like you or sort of trust you, they feel comfortable with you. When you pick them up, they'll flop. And I remember the first time, I remember his name and everything. The first time I picked him up and he went like that. And I just started crying and crying. It was just beautiful. So connecting is connecting. You just got to find a different way with every single child, But yeah, that was it. Just because it's funny thing is, it was a really rough, I picked him up really roughly because he just had a horrible mess and I didn't want him choking. So I picked him up so gruffly, and that's when he went like that. So I thought, and she said, it's because you went in so confidently that time. So I wasn't trying to be careful or anything. But yeah, connection is just, you got to find a different way. They're all different, right? With developmentally delayed preemies, I've worked with a lot of babies who've been delayed in various ways for different reasons. And it's almost always touch, and also humming when they're on your chest. I always found they seem to like that. They would often roll their eyes in the back of their head if I put their head like sideways right there, and I just like hold them like that and start humming, just humming a song. They seem to like the humming. They can feel the vibration. So I did a lot of that stuff. That's it. I was always somewhere working with kids, trying to figure them out wherever. That's why I went to Sunny Hill. They said, and I said, what do? I want to learn about handicapped children. And they said, if you can do it, go to Sunny Hill Hospital. So that's where I went. That's how I went there. I used to do, also, I did big sister stuff, and but it was single dads, and they all came on to me. I was cute when I was young, so I didn't do it anymore. Who would have thought? That was, I'm sure they figured that out now, but back in the day, I had to go and pick this kid up at the dad's house as a big sister. I was the big sister. And so, yeah, they said you might want to quit. So, who thought? Who would have thought of that, eh? Yeah. Oh, what are your thoughts on vaccines and autism correlation? I have no opinion on that. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But I will say, in Australia, where I raised my kids, they weren't even allowed in schools without vaccinations. So it wasn't even an option. And I just go with the flow because I figure the majority of doctors know more than I do. So I honestly, I have no idea. I have no opinion on that whatsoever. I don't tend to have opinions on things I know nothing about or that I don't know a lot about. Does that make sense? That's like, I always say I'm a gluten-free health food vegan. And then people say, oh, you're a vegan. I say, yeah, but I'm not pro-vegan because I don't know enough about it to know if it's a good way to do it. Like, I don't know enough. I'm not an expert. Just it makes me feel good. But I'm not an expert at that. Parenting, very confident about that. Fitness, confident. Sewing, confident. The rest, nah. I don't have many opinions. I really don't have a lot of opinions because I like to learn. But the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything. But I do understand kids and their needs. Hi, Jordan. Because I never studied any of this through anyone. I never read a book on parenting. I never took a course on it, nothing but kids or anything. They taught me everything. I became obsessed with figuring them out. And you can tell me any age and I can almost exactly remember what that felt like. Like I like to go back and put myself in their shoes. So, yeah. If you're not learning from your kids, you're missing out. They're going to teach you more about yourself, especially teenagers, more about yourself than anyone else ever will, if you're open to listening. How do I get my 13-year-old teenager more chores without sounding like a nag? Okay, so this is what I would do. I would use the behavior board, call it an accountability chart, and put down follow chore chart. And you're going to put down, I would do it like this. I would say, okay, your chores, I make it really easy. 3 things usually. Make bed, put dirty clothes in the hamper, and put your dishes in the dishwasher when you're within 5 minutes of being finished. Dirty clothes go in the hamper and nowhere else. So they can't lay on the bed all day and then go in the hamper. You get what I'm going at? Bed has to be made before 10 o'clock every morning or before noon every day. So even if they go to school, it has to be made before noon because that covers the weekend. They might sleep in till 11. You got to think ahead. So that's it. Here's the chore chart I want you to follow. And then I would put down, here's my chore chart, everything else, because you're already doing everything else anyway. So make a joke out of that. And then I would say, okay, here's the chore chart. So I want that done. And then there's going to be a consequence if you don't do it. Like you'll have to do some of my chores or there'll be media blackout. And then say, okay, and what do you want from me? You always say that with teenagers. So you put on the behavior board, follow chore chart and call it an accountability chart with teenagers because behavior board sounds babyish. So put an accountability chart. Your rule is follow chore chart. It's a separate thing. If not, here's the consequence. Now, what do you want from me? They'll usually say, stop nagging and get off my back. I say, well, that's asking way too much. Let's go simpler. So then you come up with some ideas. So you got to negotiate. You got to show them that, hey, they have a say too. If you just always want to be in charge with teenagers, good luck with that. The better you get at listening and negotiating, with 2 most important skills with teenagers, listening to understand, show empathy, and not giving advice. They want it, they'll ask. This encourages them, they'll tell you everything. You get good at listening. Number 2 is negotiating. Negotiate everything. Give them a say in how their life goes. And then you'll just sail right through the teen years like I did. There's a few little bumps along the way, but basically I sailed right through it. My son even said he could never rebel because I was too reasonable and easy to talk to. What's to rebel against? Good question. I'm going to go soon. If it gets to media blackout, so there's always two consequences for kids. The first one is a positive action. So if you break a rule, you have to do a chore, something like that. Can't always get them to do that. If they won't do that, then you resort to the negative deprivation discipline or consequence on the behavior board. It's all free up there in my link. So you resorted to media blackout, okay? They wouldn't do the chore, so now it's media blackout. Now, what you're asking is, should they still do the chore? Absolutely not. Here's the trick though. And so let's say they didn't do the chore. You give them 10 minutes. Okay, so you have to mop the floor within 10 minutes of being asked to do so. So you say 10 minutes starts now. Stand there and shut up. Do not say another word. They may run away and not do a darn thing. So who cares? Who cares? I don't care what they do. So anyway, 10 minutes is up. Okay, 10 minutes is up. So and the chore wasn't done. So media blackout starts now, 24 hours. And then you might say something like, do you understand? They might say, okay, fine, I'll mop the floor. And then I would say, well, you don't have to now because media blackout started. But if you want to, that's fine. Sometimes if they know they've got a parent they can manipulate, what they'll do is they'll say, well, I'm going to mop the floor then. Then they'll mop the floor. And then they'll say, okay, no media blackout. And then if you give in to that, they're in charge. They'll even cry. But I did mop the floor, but it had to be done within 10 minutes. Remember, it's on the board within 10 minutes of being asked to do so. It wasn't. So that was your choice. I always used to say that to my kids. It's your choice. Everything's your choice. If you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of that because I'm your mom. That's my job. So it was their choice. You see, that's how you do it. It's that calm. It's that calm. You just stand there waiting. Parents get pulled into this all the time. And I always tell them ahead of time when I'm coaching one-on-one, I always say, here's what might happen. Make sure you don't fall for it. They'll run in and mop the floor, even if it's after 10 minutes and you said, no, it doesn't matter. You still got media blackout. Then they'll hit you with the guilt. But I did all that mopping and you said, and I just forgot. It's first week and say, well, you'll know next time, won't you? You just got to be tough when you say something, follow through with it. It's all on the board. You're just following the rules. It's their choice. That was their choice to get media blackout. So yeah, no, they don't have to do the first one because it's one or the other. It's not both. But if they choose to do that first one after you've got media blackout, you've already said, no, you don't have to do it. If they choose to do it, media blackout is still happening. What do you want from me? I'm just following the board. It's that calm. You got to be careful with this. It was your choice. You got to get past that. Their reaction is when you know you're doing the right thing. Like in a million years, I would not go back on that. Wouldn't even cry. Like my kids would never. Actually, they would never ask me for something if the answer would be no, because they already knew me. 100%, they knew me. They might have asked their dad. He was different. I was the leader. He was the pleaser. And you only need one good leader, right? Because they tend to follow the leader. But sometimes they'd push him. For sure. If I wasn't around, they would have pushed him more. But we were on the same page. They knew it would get back to me. So yeah, you only need one good leader. Okay, I got to go. Thanks so much for being here. Oh, I'm all achy. Oh. I'm proud of myself. I'm going to do a video on this on my personal channel, which is really for my future grandkids to see what grandma was like. Because I talk about being an old lady. But I did 5 one-minute planks today with hardly any effort. It was the very first time I've ever done that, where it was like hardly any effort. Now, the trick is to do one plank for 5 minutes. You know what a plank is? You're just like down on holding yourself on your stomach. Anyway, so I was really proud of that. They were actually easy. So anyway, that's my win for today was the 5 planks. So anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a really good Friday night, and I'll be back again. Bye now. Bye, YouTube. I'm always talking to TikTok. My big audience is on TikTok.